Have you ever wondered why, even when there's no obvious reason, our relationships can become tense, stagnant, or even conflict-ridden? Sometimes, despite our best efforts to communicate and connect, our words, though well-intentioned, seem to trigger arguments or lead to awkward silences. Why does it feel so difficult? What is it that repeatedly gets in the way of our relationships, even with the people we love or those we work closely with? The answer is closer and more complex than we might imagine. It lies within us, in something intangible that profoundly impacts our interactions, our ego. The ego, that internal voice that seeks to protect us while also asserting itself, is often the unseen force straining our relationships. It's the voice that wants to be right, that needs to be seen and recognized, and it can slowly erode our connections without us realizing it. When the ego takes control, we become less capable of listening without bias, less willing to compromise, and more inclined to interpret others' words and actions as criticisms or threats. It pushes us to see ourselves in competition, to defend rather than understand, and to react instead of reflect. It's in these moments that relationships begin to fracture, becoming complicated and filled with misunderstandings and resentment. But it doesn't have to be this way. Recognizing the role of ego in our relationships can change everything. It allows us to pause and see beyond the need to defend ourselves. It invites us to engage from a place of empathy and understanding rather than domination. When we learn to acknowledge and manage the ego, our relationships not only heal, they flourish. We can connect deeply from a place of authenticity and vulnerability. The ego is that part of us that builds an image of who we believe we are. It helps us stand firm, feel secure, and face the world with confidence. Think of it as a shield that protects us, urging us to defend ourselves when we feel vulnerable or threatened. It constantly reminds us of our worth and importance, making us crave recognition and respect. But this shield has a dark side. The ego can become so powerful that it makes us see everything around us as a challenge or a threat to the image we want to preserve. It reacts on our behalf, making us defensive even when it's unnecessary. It drives us to want to be right, to demand others meet our expectations, and to resist admitting fault. In these moments, the ego becomes a barrier between us and those around us. Instead of opening us up to listen or understand, it closes us off and disconnects us. We start seeing disagreements as battles, differences as threats, and mistakes as personal attacks. This is how the ego, often without us noticing, separates us from others. It keeps us focused on ourselves, pulling us away from empathy, understanding, and authentic connection. In romantic relationships, the ego often takes on different forms, and it's frequently the root of recurring conflicts and misunderstandings. For instance, there's the subtle, almost invisible competition that arises when one partner feels the need to always be right or to prove that their perspective is the correct one. A discussion that starts as a simple exchange of ideas can quickly turn into a battle for dominance instead of a conversation aimed at mutual understanding. In those moments, the ego makes us forget that we're on the same team. The relationship shifts from a space of support and understanding to a competition where each person tries to stand out or affirm their position, sometimes at the expense of the other. Another way the ego manifests is through pride. Admitting we're wrong can feel like an attack on our identity or dignity. Sometimes apologizing feels like weakness, and we choose to hold our ground, even when deep down we know we're not in the right. This pride prevents vulnerability, making it harder to recognize our own mistakes and grow with our partner. Over time, the ego creates a wedge in the relationship. Arguments that could have been resolved with empathy and openness turn into growing distances. Gradually, we stop seeing our partner as someone with feelings and begin to see them as someone we need to outmatch or prove wrong. The solution starts with a shift in perspective. When you feel the urge to compete with your partner, or when pride prevents you from approaching them, ask yourself, do I want to be right, or do I want peace? This simple question can help you release the need to win and focus on sincere, defenseless communication. To overcome pride and competition, try to see your partner as an ally, not an adversary. Listen before responding, and when you make a mistake, allow vulnerability to be part of the relationship. Remember, admitting a mistake doesn't make you weak. It shows your strength and commitment to the relationship. In family dynamics, the ego plays a silent but powerful role, shaping the way we interact and often complicating our closest connections. A common example is the tendency to impose our ideas and desires on others. We believe we know what's best, and instead of listening or respecting others' opinions, we try to control, correct, or influence their decisions. This need to control is especially evident in family discussions, where the subject often becomes secondary to the subtle power struggle beneath it. We want our opinions to be recognized, our worldview to be valued, and in some way to be followed. Yet this need to impose often breeds tension and resentment, making others feel misunderstood or undervalued. Another way ego manifests is through rigid roles we assign within the family. The ego helps build labels. One person is the strong one, another is the responsible one, someone else is the rebel, or the one who needs help. These roles, while providing a sense of identity, can be limiting and suffocating. To change this, we must learn to accept family members as they are, without trying to change them. Letting go of control and rigid roles allows us to see each person more genuinely. Listening without judgment and letting everyone express their true selves creates a more harmonious coexistence. Managing the ego isn't about eliminating it entirely. It's about recognizing when it's taking control and choosing a different response. Here are some practical steps to help reduce the ego's influence in your relationships. First, practice self-awareness. When you feel the urge to defend, compete, or react impulsively, take a moment to pause. Ask yourself, am I acting from a place of ego or from understanding? This simple question can shift your mindset and help you approach the situation more thoughtfully. Second, cultivate empathy. Try to step into the other person's perspective. What might they be feeling? What's their point of view? Empathy helps soften the ego's grip and create space for genuine connection. Third, embrace vulnerability. Admitting mistakes or showing your true emotions can feel scary, but it builds trust and deepens relationships. Remember, vulnerability is a strength. It shows authenticity and invites others to do the same. Finally, focus on collaboration over competition. Whether it's in your family, workplace, or romantic relationship, remind yourself that you're on the same team. Shifting your goal from winning to understanding transforms conflicts into opportunities for growth. The ego is a natural part of who we are, but when it takes control, it can damage our relationships. By learning to recognize its influence and choosing to act with empathy, vulnerability, and understanding, we can transform our connections, Healthy relationships aren't about proving ourselves. They're about building trust, sharing openly, and growing together. The next time you find yourself in conflict, pause and ask, am I leading with my ego or with my heart? This small shift can make all the difference. Thank you for watching, and I encourage you to reflect on how the ego may have influenced your own relationships. Share your thoughts or strategies in the comments. We'd love to learn from your experiences. If this video resonated with you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more insights on personal growth and authentic connection. Let's continue this journey together.